sun finally came out, so that's why we have a bigger crowd tonight. It's great to see everybody here. I welcome anybody here who's here for the first time or who's a visitor. Appreciate you coming to our meeting. We have guest speaker tonight is going to talk about his adventures, and we're looking very much to it. So that's something we'll turn it over to Mr. Benton.
Thank you. Thank you, Ken. Well, good evening, everyone. It's really nice to see you all, and thank you for inviting me. I don't have a well-prepared presentation. I just have kind of a collection of random thoughts and experiences that I'll try to dribble out in some coherent order without too much, oh, wait a minute, let me back up, like that. I did have some photographs to share, but the facility isn't accommodating, so you'll just have to do it with hand gestures and take my word on it. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about me, how I came to come to the Historical Society, and where I'm from, what I used to do, which was Virginia and my work there, how I came to the Cincinnati area, what I'm doing now, how the two areas are connected, and then I'd like to tell you a little bit about what I've learned since I've come here. So there's a lot of information. Feel free to raise your hand, speak up. I can repeat anything. I can flesh out any details that might come up. So just let me know. Okay. So my name is Jim Benton, and I'm new to the Cincinnati area. I came here with my wife, Valerie, in 2010. We used to live in the Blacksburg, Virginia area, where she was a professor at Virginia Tech. I had a residential remodeling business there that I ran for about 17 years and had to give it up when we came here. And I did not want to try to start from scratch another business. And so we decided that one thing that we could do to keep me busy and keep us living was that we bought an old farmstead, one of those 100-acre farms. The family has grown, the kids are grown, and they have to sell it off. So we bought that, and it had a 100-year-old house on it. It was built in 1905, and I completely remodeled it. I tore it all completely apart except for the studs and the roof. Other than that, it's completely new. I know it was built in 1905 because of county records and because I found a board inside the house that the original carpenters had signed and dated, which was, kind of cool. I finished that house in about 3 years and needed something else to do, and a neighboring house came up for sale. And it was just like this house. It was 100 years old. Actually, it was 125 years old. Very dilapidated. No one would buy it except for someone like me. So I bought that house, and I'm currently working on that. My neighbor, Marv Record, drives by, and he sees this guy working on these old houses on a solo operation. It's just me out there kind of, lifting boards day by day. And he stopped by and wondering, like, who are you? Where'd you come from? Why are you doing this? And I told him that I was from the Blacksburg area. And he said, oh, Blacksburg, I've heard of that place. And so we started chatting a little bit about what I used to do in Blacksburg and how I came here. And he said, Jim, you've got to come talk to the group. It sounds very interesting. So one thing that's where I was, and that's why I'm here. And one thing that ties the two areas together is the story of Mary Draper. When I was in Blacksburg, that was the folklore. Everybody knows the story of Mary Draper. Kind of familiar with it here. She was captured from the Blacksburg area in 1755 by the Shawnee Indians. Blacksburg at that time was the frontier of the United States. And the Indians were very upset about having their territory essentially taken from them. So they did a raid on the frontier camp while all the menfolk were out in the fields. And they kidnapped Mary, who was like 9 months pregnant, and started to take her this area, to this Cincinnati area. They made a stop over in Scioto, Portsmouth, I believe, but then continued on. And eventually she was held at Big Bone Lick area. She was a slave and making salt and gathering food and so forth. And one day, and she was only there for a couple of months. She was captured in the spring, and she made it back to Blacksburg by November. So she was only in the Big Bone Lick area for a couple of months. Anyway, this story is the story that everybody knows in Blacksburg, and a lot of people know it here. It's not as well known in this area, I think because it's just a larger area. But in Blacksburg, everybody knows it. There's annual plays that the high schoolers put on. Her old homestead is still preserved. Everybody knows this story. Well, when my wife got a job at University of Cincinnati, I realized we had to leave the area, and I also realized at that time that I could make the same trip that Mary Draper made, only in reverse. So instead of coming from the Cincinnati area, Big Bone Lick, back to Blacksburg, I was going to go from the Blacksburg area down to Cincinnati. I was going to follow the river, just as she had done when she made her way back home. Now, I don't know if any of you are familiar with this story, Follow the River. This is a great book. It's been made into a movie. I encourage you to read it if you haven't. It's by James Alexander Thom. Follow the River. It's terrific. So this was in, Valerie came here before I did because I had a residential remodeling business and I had to finish my work. So it took me a while to wrap that all up. And at the end of that career, I gathered up my little kayak and I was going to make this route. I did a little bit of research. I went online to try to figure out where to buy maps and what I would encounter on the way. But that was about all the preparation that I could do. So I had this just junky kayak. It's 12 feet long. I bought it from a canoe livery that they use to rent out to people who want to go fishing and tootling around on the New River, which is the water there. So I bought this kayak, and I paddled with it, I trained with it, I got accustomed to it, and then I bought all the food. I was going to make this trip from as far up the water as I could be, all the way down to Cincinnati. I thought it would be about 400 miles, but it turned out to be longer than that. So I loaded this kayak. I got, 3 weeks worth of freeze-dried dinners. I got pounds of oatmeal, pounds of dried fruit, nuts, beef jerky, huge bag of M&Ms, and set off. I had a little camping stove and a tent and a sleeping bag, and my plan was to paddle every day and then find somewhere on the riverbank and just quietly pitch a tent, no campfires, nothing like that, and just sleep and get up the next day and paddle again. And that's essentially what I did. I started the trip way up the headwaters of the Little River, and this was in a town of Floyd, Virginia. At that point where I put in, the river was really only about the size of this black floor. It was like a foot deep and 15, 20 feet wide. It was very small, but it was enough to float. And I floated down, and I spent a couple days floating down the Little River until its confluence with the New River. And I dumped into the New River and paddled that along. And this was all in my neck of the woods. I was very familiar with all of this water. I played there for 20 years. And I followed the New River down until it comes to this area that is world-class for its big rapids, the New River Gorge. There's no way I could go through that, so I just kind of stopped. I just literally pulled off, and it's probably maybe 10 days into the trip, 7 or 10 days into the trip, and I just pulled off to the side. I wasn't really sure what to do. But then a group of people who were spending Labor Day weekend rafting through the gorge were taken out at the end of the day, same day I was there, and I asked them for a ride to the camping site, campground nearby, and I was telling them my story, and they said, "Jim, you've got to come raft the big rapids with us tomorrow. You've got to do it." So I said, "Terrific," and I did that trip in the huge waves, and it was all very exciting. But more importantly, I counted that as actually continuing my trip uninterrupted through the rapids. I called my wife after I had gone through that weekend day with my new friends. And I said, "Valerie, you've got to come get me and help me shuttle my big heavy kayak from the campground. We've got to go around the rapids that I did with my new friends, and you put me in right below." Right below the rapids is the confluence with the Gauley River, and those two rivers, the New and the Gauley, combine to make the Kanawha River. And I put in the Kanawha River. And the Kanawha River it's a very industrial river. I mean, it is heavily developed along its banks with houses and gas industry. It was not really an attractive float, but I still managed to every now and then, every couple of nights, find a little place where I could squirrel off and camp and keep going again the next day. After about 3 or so days on the Kanawha River, it dumps into the Ohio. At Point Pleasant, which is about 200 miles away, and I looked at my maps and I saw the distance and I realized that I could not paddle all of the Ohio River in time to get to Cincinnati to help move the stepdaughter into the dormitory. So I called Valerie. Valerie, we have to shorten this trip. So she and her daughter came out and we put everything in the car, kayak up on top, and we bypassed about 100 miles of the Ohio River. I was averaging about 20 miles a day, and so I didn't paddle about 100 miles of the Ohio. But it's big, and it's flat, and you paddle, and it's hot, and the sun is, and you see a bend in the river way up ahead, and it takes you hours to get to it. The river is big, and it's slow. So I didn't really mind knocking off 100 miles. So she put me in around Portsmouth, which is kind of where Mary Draper was first held, and I started paddling again. And it was great. I mean, it's big and flat and it's hot. But one thing that was really neat about this section of the trip is that the Ohio River is a navigable waterway. So it's maintained by the Army Corps of Engineers with this series of locks and dams. And in order for me to continue floating, periodically I would have to get through one of these locks. I had no idea how to do this, but I'll tell you in case now you want to do it. It's amazingly simple. You paddle up to the upstream end of the lock, and quite literally, you ring a doorbell. And an intercom comes on, and they say yes, and you say, look, I'm here, I got to get through. They told me they can't see me, can you paddle back? So I paddled back to get in view of the camera, and they said, okay, give me like 10 minutes. And they close off the lock, and they filled it with water, and a big horn sounds, and these giant doors open. I mean, just the biggest doors open, and I float on in, the doors close behind, and they start draining. And the sound of the water, these locks are enormous. They are 110 feet wide, and they're like 1,000 feet long, because they can accommodate barge. They are huge structures. And so I'm sitting in this bathtub, essentially, and you hear the water release, and it's just, you can hear it flowing somewhere in the structure. And it's a lot of water, and it's moving, and the whole thing is just sinking. And the water's placid. I just kind of sink. It drops about 25 feet. And then they open up these giant doors at the other end, and I paddle on out. And I had to do that like 3 or 4 times along the trip. And so one time I stopped and spoke with the lockmaster. I got out and went up to his tower and asked if it was proper for me to do this. Am I getting him in trouble? And, oh, everything's fine, he assured me. Their job is to let river traffic up and down. So it doesn't matter if it's just me, it doesn't matter if it's a big barge. They did say that they would not have me share with a barge, because that would be a tight fit. Nor would they let me go upstream, because when they fill the lock, it's very turbulent. But going downstream, no problem. So he bade me well, and I continued on. 18 days later of sitting in the kayak and camping on the side of the bank, I pull up to Cincinnati, and Valerie was living in a condominium right on the river. I did not go all the way to Big Bone Lick. I wanted to stop. I mean, it's a long time. I wanted to stop, and I didn't really have the full story of where Mary was sent and its proximity to where I was now in Cincinnati. I knew it was the Cincinnati area, but I didn't know it was just a little bit further downstream. So that was that. So that trip took me like 20 days. I think it was 18 days. I paddled for about 400 miles. I skipped about 100 miles. That would have added another week. And it was really all uneventful. I mean, nobody harassed me. I didn't get any poison ivy or sunburn, or the weather was fabulous. I mean, really, it went just swimmingly. It was a fabulous experience. Okay, so that now takes me from Virginia kind of to Cincinnati, and now the Big Bone area. And I'd like to share with you a little bit about what I know of Big Bone, Last winter, there was a lot of snow. I wasn't able to work much on remodeling these old houses. So I took a university course at Cincinnati that focused on the geology of the area. And then I was assigned a specific task to share with the class what I could learn about Big Bone Lick. So I'll start that now. Big Bone Lick and Virginia are connected as well, besides with Mary Draper. And primarily it's from Thomas Jefferson. So I knew, being a good Virginian, I grew up there and lived there for 40-some years, I sometimes went to Monticello, Thomas Jefferson's place in Charlottesville. And Jefferson was an avid naturalist, and one of the things that he had in his house are some bones that he got from Big Bone Lick. When he became president, he had dispatched Lewis and Clark to go explore the country, try to find a waterway to the West Coast, and also Jefferson wanted them to try to find some of these animals that are attached to the bones that he's found at Big Bone Lick. Jefferson just could not believe that animals went extinct. He thought if God made these animals, they're perfect, they should still be around. He just couldn't wrap his head around that these animals would no longer exist. So he said, boys, you got to go find these animals. Well, sadly, they couldn't. All the animals were gone. I'll tell you a little bit about what animal bones are at Big Bone Lick a little bit later on. But so Jefferson was disappointed, and here's kind of a neat thing that I just love to share. So Jefferson couldn't believe the animals would go extinct, but sadly they are. But in a way, in an offhand way, they didn't quite go extinct for Jefferson in particular. So one of the animals' bones that are at Big Bone Lick is the mammoth. And I'll tell you about the mammoth later, but mammoth bones were found there. And mammoth are all extinct, but we still have the word. We still use mammoth as an adjective today. And that's because of Jefferson. So before Jefferson became president, he was advocating religious freedoms. And there was a group of Baptists in Massachusetts who really liked this outlook. Hey, everybody's for religious freedom. He's going to leave us alone. We should be able to do our thing. They wanted to reward him. So the village went around, milked all the cows in the village, and they were going to make for him a block of cheese. And they milked 900 cows, and they had so much milk. They had to make a special press to press the curds into the cheese. They created for Jefferson a wheel of cheese that was 4 feet in diameter and a foot thick. And at the time, this wheel of cheese was described as a mammoth-sized wheel of cheese. And that's the first recorded use of the word mammoth as an adjective. So in a way, although Jefferson didn't get to see these animals preserved, the word mammoth still exists today because of Jefferson. And I think that's really a neat kind of gee-whizzy thing. So, what else? All right. So now what I'd like to do is I'd like to share with you, I don't have the photographs, but I'll share with you my notes from the presentation that I gave to my geology class last year. We'll talk about what's at Big Bone. So Big Bone Lick, yes?
All right, I gotta ask, what happened to the cheese?
I don't know.
Crackers.
I don't know, preserved?
The reason I ask is that's a really big piece of cheese.
That's a mammoth piece of cheese.
He had a big party.
It must have. I don't know. I don't know what happened to
He
it.
was always lying.
But it's easy to find out. I mean, head online tonight and look up Mammoth Wheel of Cheese and Jefferson and Baptist, and you'll get it.
Was Jefferson at Big Bone?
I don't think he ever went there.
Okay.
I don't think he ever
I
did.
didn't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so. Bones have been coming out of Big Bone Lick forever, and as soon as people started to find them in the 1700s, well, they were immediately dug up, packed, hauled down the Ohio River, shipped to England. A lot of bones were lost. Some ships would capsize or burn. They're scattered all over the place. The park rangers at Big Bone say that there's still like 70% bones as yet undiscovered at Big Bone Lick. And there's a professor, Cincinnati professor who does digs there every year. He has an ongoing dig and invites the public to come watch and participate. Kids will even find stuff after storms have come through and washed. They'll find big bones. They're still there. So what brought the animals to Big Bone Lick? What makes it a lick? Well, most of the bones that are at Big Bone Lick are of herbivores. Big, large animals, not eating any meat, only plant eaters. Plant eaters need salt in their diet. And Big Bone Lick is a source of salt. Salt is actually bubbling up from the ground at Big Bone Lick. But what's kind of interesting is all around us, in this whole Cincinnati 8-county region, it's all solid rock. If you drive around, if you drive on the AA, you see these road cuts, it's all solid rock, just layer after layer of limestone. The only place it's not layer after layer of limestone is down in the river valleys. The Licking River, the Miami River, all those have just kind of cut down through the limestone. And I could tell you about what's there now. Mostly it's gravel. But if you dig through the gravel, you'll come again to this layer of limestone. This limestone is over a mile thick. And it started forming about 480 million years ago, very long time ago. It formed for millions of years out of seashells. Just seashells building up, living, dying, compressing, just building up, building up, building up. It's all solid. When it rains, when we have snow, the ground gets all muddy because it can't drain anywhere. It's just solid limestone. So where's the salt come from? Apparently the salt is coming from underneath that. So even more than a mile deep, a mile deep, there's another layer of rock, and it's sandstone. Sandstone, made up of little grains of sand, has a lot of space for water to be in it. And it's presumed that that's where the salt water is. And this overlying weight of this mile of limestone is pressing down, and salt water squirting up just in any little crack you can find, and it happens to emerge at Big Bone Lick. If any of you have been to Big Bone Lick, that stuff is nasty looking. I mean, it is it looks like sewerage. It's kind of white or greenish, and it stinks. It's nasty. But that's the salt water. And for millions of years, animals have come there. The Indians started to go there. They were becoming less huntering. They were beginning to grow more, so they were getting a little bit less salt in their diet from the meat that they hunted. So they had to boil salt. Big Bone Lick still has like a salt-making festival every year. So this is where the salt is. So how did they get stuck? Was a question I first wondered. Why couldn't they just go up and lick the dirt? Maybe you've seen deer. The hunters set out a block of salt, just go lick it for a while. Well, the reason the animals couldn't just lick and leave, they would often get stuck because the ground around Big Bone Lick can be very gooey. And it's gooey because over the eons, glaciers have come along from the north. They come along, and sometimes, even when they're melting and they're spewing out gravel and dirt, or it's just ice itself, Big Bone Creek gets blocked from draining into the Ohio River. It all backs up, and at different times in history, all this area, the Ohio River area, the Licking River, all it's been backed up before turns into a series of lakes. And lake sediment, just regular dirt and stuff, settles in there. And then once the river can flow again, you're left with kind of gooey ground. Wet, soggy, gooey, sticky. And at other times, there's, the lake will be there, but it's glacier time, because there's glaciers to the north. It's very cold. There'll be a layer of ice on the Big Bone River, and animals will break through. They'll get stuck in the muck. And they'll get stuck in the muck. And one thing I had that I can't show you, but I encourage you to internet it yourselves, is to see what a large animal stuck in the mud looks like. And there's plenty of videos for elephants in Africa get stuck in the watering hole. And they just get stuck. And they can't get out. Humans will try to dig them out with tractors and stuff, but a lot of times they just get stuck. And then, of course, the predators come in, kill those animals, eat what they can, or the animals die, bones collect, more animals come, and it all just kind of piles up. Big Bone is filled with big bones. So what's there? Some of the animals that have been found at Big Bone Lick include the mammoth. A mammoth is it's about African elephant sized. It's a grazer and a browser, so it's grazing stuff off the ground. It uses the trunk, pull twigs, pull apples, things out of the tree. It's grazing and browsing. It weighs about 6 to 7 tons. It's 10 to 13 feet high at the shoulder, so its shoulder is higher than this ceiling. These are large animals. The name of the mammoth, no one's really sure, but it might be an Arabic version of the word behemoth. That's about all I could find. Another animal that's there is the mastodon. The mastodon is a similar looking animal that's a little bit smaller. It's more like an Indian elephant-sized animal. It's a browser. It uses its trunk for twigs, whatever it can grab. It doesn't graze so much. Its teeth are a little bit different. And the mastodon got its name from the shape of its teeth. It's got these knobbly teeth. And mastodon is a combination of words meaning breast and tooth. And so it's got breast-shaped teeth. That's how the mastodon got its name. Another animal that's at Big Bone Lick is the elk moose. The elk moose is a giant animal. It has antlers that are kind of elk-shaped, but it's got a body more like the northern moose. And its antlers are tremendous. They're like 12 feet across. So 12 feet, now that's bigger than this table. It's just, they're huge. Another animal that's there is the complex-toothed horse. North America used to have horses until about 10,000 years ago when people came and started killing off all the large animals. Then there were no horses until Columbus and the explorers brought them from Europe. But at one time, there were native horses in the area. Their teeth were a little bit different than a modern horse. They were more ridged and not knobbly. Oh, here's an interesting little factoid that I discovered reading about horses, is that horses are very useful animals. You see them on the farm. Farmers used them in the early days for plowing. They're work horses. And because they have such utility, they were often given as gifts. And the horse teeth wear down. They don't replace their teeth. So you can judge a horse's age if you look at its teeth. And if somebody gives you a horse, it's impolite to pry open its mouth and see how old it is. And so the expression, don't look a gift horse in the mouth, we think stems from this practice. Another animal is the helmeted musk ox. And all the description of these animals would be much more vivid, of course, if we had pictures, but we don't. So the helmeted musk ox is very similar to any other musk ox that exists in the world today, only instead of it's slightly different looking on its horns. A modern musk ox has these two horns and kind of a ridge. It's got a whole bony cap on its head with these horns coming off. And the ones that are at Big Bone Lick, it's a solid cap. It doesn't have a visible ridge. That's about the only distinction. Oh, this is a cool one. The giant ground sloth. The giant ground sloth is the one that really caught Jefferson's attention. When he saw this animal has claws that are like 6 inches long that would have been exposed, not like tucked way up like a cat's. But these were exposed claws, 6 inches long. But it was not aggressive with him. The animal would use these claws to dig up roots and tubers and that sort of thing. Now, if any of you ever have the opportunity to go to University of Cincinnati campus, there's a statue of their mascot, the bearcat. And this is a giant statue. It's about the size of this ground sloth. It's like 10 feet high. It weighs like 800 to 1,000 pounds. And that's about the size of this statue. And this statue is posed in a fabulous way. It's up on a pedestal, so it looms even larger. But it's a giant animal. It's reaching for you and growling all rough. If you can ignore the head and the fangs, pay attention to the claws. I mean, this is a big animal. These are big claws. It's neat to be able to see this, life-size and touch it. It's kind of cool. The last animal that I spent any attention looking at is the bison. The American bison was an animal that was a big bone. It's not a buffalo, it's a bison. Buffalo are more like the African water buffalo you see. This is an American bison. And you still see him today. It's not an extinct animal, but it's just been driven out of the area. The bison were so plentiful around here that they traveled. They migrated. One place they went was to Big Bone, and they would just travel in these herds, tremendous herds of bison. They would beat past through the forest that were 15 or 20 feet wide. They actually created roads. The bison those bison paths, those traces they're called, were the original highways of the country. Traveling from the coast inland was very difficult to get over the Appalachian Mountains, but there's a gap in the mountains at Cumberland. This was a big bison trace. If you ever go to Cincinnati and cross the bridge over into Newport, there's a wall of murals along the waterfront of Newport. And there's a great mural there depicting a bison trace crossing the river going into the woods. If you get a chance, go look at it. It'll give you a sense of how many animals there were and what their traces looked like. They were huge and tremendous. When I made a trip, I'm nearly done. So when I made a trip out to Big Bone Lake and spent some time talking with one of the forest rangers, I asked if any animals still get stuck, because sure, there's still deer, they need salt, there's other animals that want salt, there's still the same muck, and they do. Animals will still get stuck, but because it's a park, people will usually alert the ranger to it, and they'll free it. But most recently, this park ranger told me there was a turtle stuck in the muck, and the forest rangers went out. All the campers were looking at the turtle, and they scooped it out and washed it off and set it off into the woods. That's about all that I have. That's who I am and the work that I do and the history of the work I do and where I used to be and how I came to be here. And I followed this path of Mary Draper, and I learned a little bit about Big Bone. Does anyone have any questions? Yes?
Around here we call her Mary Ingalls.
I believe that's her married name.
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm. So, yes.
Yeah, well, I am a member of the DAR.
Okay.
And our local DAR chapter is the Mary English chapter.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we're quite proud of her.
Absolutely.
And some of the way that she walked home would have been on this side of the river.
Yep.
And she followed, is that 8?
Yeah.
Route 8,
Yeah.
and that is the Mary English Highway.
Yeah. And what strikes me, when I think about how she traveled, because she was on this side of the river, she was on the Big Bone side and she ran away. And so she traveled along, but she couldn't swim.
Right.
So whenever she would come to a tributary, she would have to, I guess even the Licking, she'd have to go way upstream until she could cross and then come back.
She went up to, I think, almost Butler, Kentucky.
That's tremendous.
Isn't that something?
That's tremendous.
I think I'd have learned to swim.
Right. Right.
But you have to look at the rivers back then too, as to decide
Probably longer.
compared to today.
Yeah.
Those locks and dams create a lot of pools, which are holding a lot of water, making the rivers bigger, absolutely.
One other thing, one of our members in our society is Patty Hahn, H-O-N-S, and she is a descendant of Mary English' oldest son, Thomas.
Is that right?
Yeah, and she
Oh,
lives
cool.
in Lawrenceburg, Indiana.
Yeah.
I'll share her email address. She might like to hear from you.
Oh, yeah, I'd
And
like to.
she did a children's book
Cool.
about Mary English, and she has I saw her present at the library, and she has,
Did she mention it? Now, I told you at the beginning, when Mary was kidnapped, she was 9 months pregnant. She gave birth on the trail, and she had to abandon that baby at Big Bone so she could make her way back. That son grew up, was healthy and happy, but he never quite fit in with the Indian culture and could never really feel good about coming back to the white culture. So my understanding is that he lived his whole life sort of in the intermediate zone.
yes. He would come back and live with the white folks for a while, and then he'd get the urge and he'd take off again.
That's what I understand.
Live with Indians and live in the wild.
So that's not Tom, her
Yes, this is her descendant, or she's a descendant of Tom.
of the fellow we're describing.
Yes,
Outstanding.
yeah.
Yes.
When you mentioned you were from Virginia, is Virginia a commonwealth
Yes, it is.
like this?
Of course. That's the only place to live in a commonwealth. Absolutely.
Also, is West Virginia, like, the territory cut out of Virginia, is Kentucky cut out of Virginia?
My understanding, yes, my understanding is when this country was first.
County of Virginia. Kentucky County of Virginia.
Oh, outstanding. Virginia was named after, I think, the Queen of England, and so almost everything was at first called Virginia, almost the whole land, and then they started chopping it up into colonies and states. That's what I think, but I don't know.
Is West Virginia also from Virginia?
Yes. But I don't know if West Virginia is still a Commonwealth. Say, no.
Are there many other commonwealths, other than Massachusetts?
I think there's a few.
Pennsylvania is a common.
Massachusetts,
Oh, is it Massachusetts?
maybe Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, Kentucky, Virginia.
What is it?
The one thing that stands out in your mind the most of our trip, what would be the most surprising thing for you?
The most surprising thing was that I was allowed to go through the locks and dams. That really was an exhilarating experience. Although nothing moves fast, those structures are incredibly large, and they're awe-inspiring to be in it. It's kind of freaky. They are mammoth structures. Yes, ma'am.
When you came here and you bought those houses, did you know the history of those houses you bought?
No, not really. Not any more than one generation. We bought from the family. The children are 50s and 60s, and Mom had just passed a couple years before, so that's all we knew about that. And same with the other house. But since that time, Valerie and I have gone to the courthouse, and we've tracked ownership back to the beginning. And that's kind of interesting, what we discovered there, that the one house we bought and the second house we bought were on separate parcels when the land was originally given. The land was originally given to Revolutionary War soldiers as a pension of sorts. The government just said, hey, look, you've done good service for your country, here's 2,500 acres, and the other one got like 4,500. I don't know why. The dividing line between those two patents of land still exists, so that dividing line never moved over the years. And so we bought the house that was on this side, and then later we bought the house that was on this side. And of course, over the years, these land patents, these large tracts had been chopped up, and property lines moved around, but not this original one. This original one still is a property line.
Where are they?
They call it 12 Mile. So California, okay, all right, 12 Mile.
Who was the original owners of it?
Val, Mitchell,
Yeah, and I don't remember the other guy.
Benton was the big plow,
okay.
Campbell County.
I saw, if you go to the courthouse and you look, they have a table set out, and this is the same room where you get your driver's license, just the back half of it. There's a large table set out where you can flip through the deed books, and on that table is a drawing of Campbell County and all the original patents of land. And Mitchell, he's all over it. A lot of pieces of land belong to Mitchell. I can't remember the
I
other
can't
one.
remember the other one, yeah.
Were they long houses?
No. One was built in 1905, and it's wood frame, stick construction, balloon frame. So it's not like today where you build a floor and then the first floor walls and then the second floor. This was built with very long studs, and you plop a roof on it, and then you add a floor in the middle. The other house was built in 1895 and built in the same way. It's a little bit older than the first house I worked on, and I can see slight differences in the construction techniques. And the older house has different nails, so the older house doesn't have wire nails, round nails, it has square nails, which is kind of neat. What I can tell you about house construction in early America was homeowners often did not get the option of deciding how large their house was going to be. It wasn't, you could say, I want a 3-bedroom house. It was more like, this is all the money I have, let's bring all the lumber on site that we can. And then the home builders would see that what you got from the mill, well, you've got enough boards here to make a story house with a roof, or a story and a half, or you've got some really long boards, you could make a 2-story house. And so a lot of times the owner didn't really know in advance what the house was going to be. But one thing that strikes me as I dig around these houses, both of them have basements. And if any of you guys have ever tried just digging in the yard, you're going to hit all this limestone. But they've dug 8-foot basements and lined them with the giant rocks that are there. And this is all before there were combustion engines. I mean, this is before anything. How did the wood even get here? Maybe at Goobser Mill, that was a log mill at 12 Mile. They might have done it all there. and horse and wagon up the hill to the house. But just all that digging. How did you make a pit? I don't understand it.
Were they dirt floors?
Dirt floors.
Yeah.
Dirt floors. And water seeps in because it seeps through the cracks in the rock and just kind of seeps on out. So you don't want to waterproof them. You don't want to live in the basement. If you waterproof them, that's a whole other bag of
Were
worms.
they heated by fireplaces or stoves?
I don't know. By the time we got to them, well, there were chimneys. Both these houses had like a double flue chimney. Actually, it was a single flue, but I could tell that there was a stove on the first floor at each end, and a stove at the second floor of each end, and then there was a stove on the L of the house. So there was a lot of stoves. Maybe that answers the question. No fireplaces, stoves. And there are scorch marks every now and then on the old wood floor because you haul the ash out. Anything else? Yes, sir.
In your research, what do you hear about the German woman who's supposed to be coming very back?
Yeah, the only thing that I really know about her is what I read in the book and saw in the movies. She's referred to as the old Dutch woman, but I'm sure she was German and she was Deutsch, not Dutch. Apparently she was very unstable mentally, and when she and Mary were making their escape, they were hungry, they were tired, they were scared, and a couple of times the old Dutch woman tried to attack Mary, wanted to eat her. And so Mary would have to, fight her off and say, no, stay over there. And that would settle the woman down for a little bit, but then she'd try again a few days later. And so then finally, Mary did cross the river. She separated from the Dutch woman. They were on opposite sides of the river. Mary went for safety. And for a while, they traveled upstream together, just opposite one another. And then I think the woman fell back a little bit, and Mary just kept on going. And the old Dutch woman's kind of lost to history. Nobody really knows what happened to her, if she made it back.
Maybe Mary Ann.
I haven't learned that yet. Yes?
When you think how tremendous her courage can be, how many miles approximately did she walk? Like from Big Bone or where?
Yeah, well, so my trip was about 500 miles. I paddled 400 of it. And so Cincinnati to Big Bone is another 30. So I think she could have easily walked 500 miles. And it was getting cold. And there's no food. At the end of summer, now there's just acorns. And she's not wearing any shoes. And she doesn't want to make a fire for fear of being seen. And so what she would often do is she'd find an old tree that had fallen down. And it might be hollowed out. She could go in there, look for grubs, and then curl up in that log trying to stay warm. Her feet are bleeding. Her clothes are falling apart. It's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah.
They didn't recognize her when she showed up.
Right.
Her hair was supposed to be gray,
Okay.
probably lost her teeth.
Yeah. All cut, skinny, cut and bleeding. She looked like a crazy person, I'm sure. But when she made it back to the Blacksburg area, she was found by a hunter who was, doing some fall hunting. And he was pretty sure who she was. Because that was a big topic, and she hadn't been gone for that long. They quickly swaddled her up and made her well.
Yeah, I think some woman or someone in the family went somewhere else on the frontier,
Okay.
and their second wife, I think it's one of the women that was with them and died, or whatever, she was captured by Indians.
Oh.
I think they stayed put.
Say where it's safe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hard to live on the frontier, I imagine.
Did the Indians chase after her when she left?
I don't think so. Certainly not that I know of. She was quiet and slid away. She was desperate not to attract any attention. She didn't want to risk that. And they might have thought she was more trouble than she was worth. If they had that baby, they kind of had a...
They thought she might come back, maybe.
I thought they had a pony, too. The pony got stuck in the
I hear, yeah, that does sound familiar. They were maybe trying to cross a river with the pony. Got stuck in a log jam, I think. And then I think they wanted to kill it. It was, or it skewered itself on a log, something like that. I encourage you to read the book.
Anybody else have a question?
Thank you all very much. Yes, ma'am, one more.
One, as opposed to our race, there's a woman in history, an Indian woman named Waxbar Woman. Have you heard of her? And I got the idea, when you said this, how far Mary Eagles was, I'm thinking, well, I wonder how far this woman walked. I don't know where I heard it, I think it was some documentary on TV.
Well, we have Jenny Wiley down in the state too, don't we?
Yeah, I know.
Walk
But
Is that right? I've been to that park. There's Jenny Wiley Park. I've been there. That's a nice place.
You mentioned the Salt Lick and Big Bone. Of course, Salt Licks are a half circle across the Lake Kentucky because you got Mays Lick, Blue Licks, and Grants Lick, and I live in Grants Lick. And that's a semicircle, and that's supposedly where the last ice age ended. That's why there's 4 licks there.
Are they still bubbling up?
Yes. Now, in Grants Lick, we had 7 of them. I don't have there was one they drilled to the end of the road, which I turned into a park. And there were 7, that was a well. They made that one. But there were 7 licks where they had bubbled out of the ground, and I think several of them were destroyed by redoing US 27 in 1948.
Okay.
They were just wiped out. But they were located, and old timers in Grand Forks still refer to the licks on their property, and there's still a few of them around. I personally don't know where they're at, but I've heard people talk about them.
Fascinating.
It's also,
Yeah.
Well, wasn't one of David Leach's main things too, was making salt?
Yeah. David Leach is one of the first pioneers. His historical markers down the Double A Highway right across from McDonald's and that gas station there.
Right? 275?
Yeah, down that way.
Okay. Oh, neat.
when she made reference to Jenny Wiley, there's a book out. I bought this book, and called White Squaw, and it's a story of her. And I
Sounds
bought that
interesting.
from Jenny Wiley's State
there's
Park.
another book about it too, I think, something dark. Probably about.
All right, well, I'm going to thank him. It's been very interesting. Okay, we're going to go ahead with our business meeting now. We're going to start by treasurer's report.
Our beginning balance was $12,470.74. Our income was $737.50. And our expenses were $249.11, which gave us a balance of $12,959.13.
Okay, membership?
Membership, we had 3 business, 30 life, and 179 members for a total of 212.
That's really good for this time of year. We usually don't have that many this early yet. Okay, Jan, Muir, you want to give us our report from last month?
Last month, we had 26 members in attendance, and President Ken Reese called the meeting to order and invited Marvin Sullivan to conduct his talk on humorous themes. He was very entertaining, and he read a few poems and told some humorous stories, and he played the harmonica, and he was a fascinating gentleman. Mike reported that we received 33 Bishop Rosser yearbooks and a bottle of stamp ink from Stephen Roth, and Ken Reese then asked everyone to save yearbooks and donate them to the Historical Society. With regard to the Gray photography, Ken noted that the index will be reproduced, and Mr. and Mrs. Gray gave us a letter waiving copyright to the negatives, and a volunteer is currently scanning the index. The Hamilton County Historical Society, there are 3 different groups involved. They will have a conference on April 11th for $35, and it's always held at Winton Woods. The Campbell County Historical Society website, Jan Lester reported that the website has been revamped, and if you have a time to go on there and take a look at it, it's really, I think, pretty spiffy. Becky Farino revamped the website, but Daryl Holly is still the webmaster. And Ken mentioned that this year's event, the History Day event, is on March 28th from 9 to 2, and there are many interesting sessions planned, so it's on March 28th. Ken also reported that the Backroads Farm Tour was on July 18th. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. For those who don't know what the Gray Photography things were, the Gray Photography was located in US 27 on the Fort Thomas side of US 27 across the St. Teresa Church. One side Southgate, one side Fort Thomas. Well, they had the photography studio and they retired, and they contacted us and wanted to know if we'd be interested in their negatives. So little did I know when I said yes, when I went down to get them, it filled my entire pickup truck. There's 500,000 negatives in the collection, which we now have all of them up at the courthouse, and there's an index that goes with every single sleeve and every single box that says what each one is and who's on the picture. And they've given us the right to reproduce anything we want out of those 500,000. It's incredible. I mean, as I kept hauling them out, I thought the truck was almost full, and I said, well, I guess we didn't hear. He said, oh no, they took me the next room over, and there was piles of boxes there, so I had to stack plywood up. It was above my cab, boxes of negatives. So it was a very impressive collection we've got. We've probably got the biggest collection of negatives anywhere in the state of Kentucky right now. So we are very lucky for them to consider giving them to us. Okay, Mike, you want to talk about family tree names?
Family tree names, we're still having somewhat of a problem, but we're working on it. We have on our FP5 files 256,533, and our 2012 we have 39,294 for a total of 295,830, and we have a total of 2,920,504 records in the database.
Very good. Marvin, you want to talk about cemeteries?
Well, there's not too much to report, except now we've opened another can of worms. We got to go find Mary Draper Engel's horse. And that would be a noteworthy grave, I can assure you. No, there's not too much happening other than what we discussed, but I want to bring up about parades. We have filled out the paperwork for the Bellevue Dayton Parade, and that's going to be on the 25th of May at about 10:30 in the morning, Monday, Memorial Day. And in Alexandria, the VFW Parade will be on Sunday at 1:30. So anybody in the organization that would like to walk along with us, feel free, and if need be, we'll find us a car or something like that if those that want to participate can't walk 1.5 miles or 2 miles. So get in touch with me if you want to be in that parade. Thank you.
Thank you. Jan, you want to talk newsletter?
Yeah. The May issue of the newsletter should be out at the end of April. There's going to be a lot of stuff in it about our 25th anniversary celebration. There will be a form for members to fill out if you're interested in coming to the dinner that we're going to have for members only after the event that day, and the dinner's going to be held in the Floral Hall. This is all out at the fairgrounds.
In the dining hall.
In the dining hall, sorry, the dining hall. Our exhibits are going to be in the Floral Hall. The newsletter also is going to, we talked about Mary Ingalls. There's another famous Campbell County James Taylor, I'm sure a lot of you are aware of. His descendants are trying to revive the Taylor Association. And we've had some contact with them. They've requested copies of our James Taylor collection, which is pretty extensive. And we copied the whole thing onto a thumb drive for them and sent it to them. But I'm going to have some information about the association in the newsletter. They have a website. We have some fundraisers. The last newsletter had the Kroger information in it. We have another fundraiser that takes basically no effort from us It's called Flower Power Fundraising. Did Jeff leave? Jeff Wyman was here before, wasn't he? I think he snuck out. He's the one who kind of signed us up for this. If you go online, we'll have the website in the newsletter, flowerpowerfundraising.com, and order flowers or seeds. And then we get a percentage of whatever you order if you click on our organization.
Correspondence and emails.
That was kind of included. We have had a few inquiries other than that we've helped some people with their genealogy. The second Saturday genealogy presentation at the Kentucky Historical Society is this Saturday. You can go online to their website and find information out about that. I know Frankfurt's kind of far to go, but they do really good presentations down there, and they have it the second Saturday of every month. So,
thank you. Veterans Records, Pam's not here tonight. She called me up, said she couldn't make it. But as of right now, we have 13,153 veterans in our records up at the office. There again, we probably have the biggest collection of veterans records anywhere in Kentucky. I tell anybody has their collection we do. Picture albums. Are we working on that yet? You're not? Okay. I won't put that.
Pam and I really haven't discussed.
Yeah.
At this point, sorry, Shirley, you told me to stand up. At this point, I've scanned about 5,700 of the photos that we have in our photo collection so that we can have digital versions of those. I've stopped scanning right now because I'm creating a slideshow that we're going to have at the 25th anniversary celebration, and that's what I'm putting together now, and I'm about halfway through that.
Okay. We had a History Day meeting about 3 weeks ago on a Saturday. Northern, like usual, every few years, Northern throws a few monkey wrenches at us. They got their funding drastically cut. I mean, drastically cut. They're going to lay teachers off and all kind of stuff there. So this year, there won't be any changes for us personally, but by next year, we're going to have to make some revisions and changes as far as how much it's going to cost the park, how much it's going to cost us to do the day itself. It's not going to be we're not talking $100 or nothing, probably $2 or $3 here and there, but we're probably going to have to raise prices to compensate for that so we're not losing money. The first 3 or 4 years we lost money, we took money out of all of our treasuries to pay for it. We finally to the point now we're breaking even, so we don't want to go backwards again. So we'll have to probably raise the price up a little bit to compensate for that. And there was even talk of canceling History Day, and there was talk of moving it somewhere else. But in all honesty, Northern is the only place we can do it. There's no place else. There's that kind of parking, that kind of facilities, those kind of auditoriums. It's absolutely impossible for us to find some place that would work better than Northern. So we'll continue doing it there. And like I told the other members, we've gotten through this before. This is the 23rd year for it. We just bite the bullet and go ahead. So I think that'll happen okay. Do we have anybody here friends of Evergreen Cemetery?
I attended the meeting, and there's another meeting on, I believe, the 19th, and Andrea Janovic is on the board of directors, and she's very involved with the group, and 2 of the folks are also involved with the Fort Thomas Military Museum, so it's a good group.
Okay. Yeah, we're very concerned about Evergreen, because Evergreen, like most cemeteries, is running a deficit because so many people are being cremated. There's no money coming into the till to preserve the cemetery and mow the grass and cut the trees down that are dead and things like that. So most major cemeteries are in trouble. The little cemetery next to me in Grand Select is the same way. It's landlocked. There's no place for it to go. They've already sold off almost every plot in the cemetery, including the ones that I'm going to be in. So, I mean, there's very few places left. So that's something that's going to be a problem around the whole nation in the next 25 years. We're going to decide what we want to do about our cemeteries and how we want to support them. And almost all of them are going to have some kind of friends group that raise money to preserve it. And Evergreen's the largest cemetery in our county. There's nothing even comes close to that. So it's, I know they've got prisoners from the jail coming out and mow the grass part of the time, because that's what they're down to. Okay, Pam was gonna talk about the 25th anniversary tonight, but yes, like I said, she couldn't come. We have a lot of things going on. We're gonna need a lot of help that day doing individual jobs. Everything from just handing out a flyer as people come in, or moving a clicker to count the number of people coming in, or helping with the floor hall, or the car, truck, tractor show, or the music groups, or whatever. We've got a lot going on that day. We really need your help. If you can donate just an hour or two to us that day, we really appreciate it. I still haven't got a hold of the Boy Scouts yet, but I want to try to get the Boy Scouts to help us with parking. And if I can, I might try to get the Girl Scouts to help us with the youth activities, the children's stuff. So that's still in the process. We do have contacted the police. We're going to have an Alexandria police officer with us on the grounds the whole day. So I'm already did that. The Hills of Kentucky Dulcimers are going to play for 45 minutes for us that day. So that ought to be pretty good. So we're working on it. We're having monthly meetings. Sometimes we have 2 monthly meetings. So it's coming along quite well. Okay, future meetings. History Day, of course, is the 28th, which is in a couple weeks. April the 9th, we're going to be here at Wilder again. Keith Daniels from over in Mentor is going to talk about Camp Sunshine. I don't know how many people know what Camp Sunshine is, but it was a place where a lot of kids from the city were taken out into the country and enjoyed a few days in the country. So it was there for a long time.
High schools went out there too to practice,
Yeah.
bands.
Churches used it too.
Yeah.
On May the 14th, we're going to go to the First 12-Mile Baptist Church. We went down there probably 15 years ago now to record their cemetery, which we found abandoned on a hillside. Never did get to the church, so I called the minister. He invited us, said we'd be lucky, we'd be very welcome to go see 12-Mile Baptist Church on Oyanto. June the 11th is our regular meeting date. We're canceling that one since we're going to have our extravaganza on the 27th, so we aren't having anything on June 11th. As you mentioned about the meal is going to be free to members that night. As there's 160 spots to sit people, so I guess what we're going to end up doing is we're going to open it up to any member who wants to come, and you put your name in, you get a free meal, and then I'm going to be the lead speaker. I don't know if that's a good or bad, but I'm the speaker that night. And so if we have table space left over, then we may open it up to spouses. But at this point, with only 160 seats and close to 300 members, we're probably going to run out of space as it is. So put your name in early if you want to come. Pompilio's is catering it for us. June the 9th, I have just confirmed this week. We're going to the Pendleton County Historical Society's new flyer building there on US 27. It's coming to Butler. It's a big stone building there as you drive down 27. The building was actually owned by the gravel quarry, and they've given the Pendleton County group a long-term lease on the building. So we're going to have it in July there. I'm going to encourage everybody to bring a lawn chair, because I'm not sure, it depends on the crowd we have. We may not all fit in the building, so we might just meet outside, or they're doing, if it's inclement weather, we'll go inside.
What side of the road is that on?
US 27.
What side?
Left side.
Left side. Yeah. There's a big sign in front of it for the Pendleton County Historical. It's got a picture on there. Backroads Farm Tours on the 18th of July. 13th of August, we're going to go to Newport, the James Taylor Mansion. For those who don't know who James Taylor is, James Taylor founded Newport. He was the guy who got everything that happened.
Which James Taylor?
There were several James Taylor. That's right.
Which mansion?
Please?
Which mansion?
The Taylor Mansion itself is the big one.
Isn't there two? One was.
Well, the other one, Wheelan's Mansion, you're probably thinking. There's two Wheelan Mansions. There's only one Taylor Mansion.
What's the one there that used to be the cemetery, or the funeral?
That's it.
Is that it?
That's it.
That was General James Taylor's residence.
Okay, September the 10th, we're coming back here, and Tom Seither, retired principal of Brossart, is going to talk about his Civil War ancestors. And he researched his ancestors and discovered he had 6 ancestors that fought in the Civil War, all brothers. 3 fought for the North, 3 fought for the South. So he's got it's a really interesting story. He's worked up about that, so that I expect every seat in this room is. If you mention Civil War and genealogy, usually we can't even get the people all in the room, so I'm expecting a big meeting that night. Come early. October, we don't have a meeting yet. scheduled. I've got several options, but I don't have it written down yet. I'm still working on it. November the 12th, we're having Don Tolson come from the Hamilton County Genealogical Society. He's going to talk to us about researching your German ancestors. Very big topic in this area. And finally, we're going to end the year in Wilder here again with our holiday social, and the Hills of Kentucky Dulcimers are coming to play for us that evening. Anybody else have anything they want to bring up this evening? Thank you very much for coming. Everybody have a safe trip home.